Losing time, I'm fading fast. I just wanna make it last. Try to let go of the past. I close my eyes, embrace the blast. Sleepless nights and headaches stack. Restlessness to hell and back. What's my purpose? What do I grab? A slippery surface, a heart attack. And sometimes you just gotta believe there's something that'll give you relief. There's something that'll have what you need, what you need. We're broken, it's tragic, we're not all elastic, but maybe there's magic, believe you could have it. And I know of sadness, the anxious and panic, the infinite vastness of all that is blackness.
Hello and welcome to Tile Coach. I'm live today talking about a shower failure, always a hot topic. I am stoked you are here with us. Looking forward to catching up, maybe answering some questions. But first off, I want to share this shower failure that someone had sent to me. Chris was kind enough to send me this. I love getting emails, submissions on tilecoach.com from you guys. This was one of them. I asked her to send me some pictures and video, and she did. So this was a Schluter-Kerdi shower, and there's a lot going on with it. She took some video, sent it to me, and so I'm going to start playing that video here. And while you guys join in, just want to say thank you for being here. And if you have any video submissions or projects or anything that shower failures that you would like to share with me, and maybe we can go over it just like I'm doing here on the live stream, again, go to tilecoach.com. You can send me stuff there, and then maybe we can talk and figure some stuff out. But good to see you, Tom. Glad you're here. Let's get started with this. So I believe Chris is in Ohio somewhere, and I was really hoping that Chris would jump on here. I sent her an email, pretty short notice, but hopefully she hops on here and answers any questions that maybe I don't see. But I'm going to jump right into it. Here is the first video.
So what I've got here is a failed shower. This is a little bit of the water damage on the outside of the shower. And there's our curbs. And there's the water damage on this side, which this is the side that the faucet is on. I've just chipped away.
So I don't recall how old this shower is,
tile to see
but
if there's
I would
any
guess somewhere in the 5 to 7 year old range.
Is the Kerdi
based on some of the components of the Kerdi.
From the
this is back when Schluter had the solid foam curbs that you had to wrap your own Kerdi membrane around.
I believe.
And there's a few other things.
Mesh here from the drywall, and you can see the tile application.
Yeah, Spock just brought up a good point. This is definitely a good video to check out. A lot can go wrong with these showers if you don't do them right. So here's one I want to point out real quick. Right off the bat, when I see this stuff, I can tell right away that this is going to be a mess. If you see something as simple as this right here, this V-notch trowel that was used to put on 12 by 24 porcelain tile, completely wrong trowel to use. That should have been a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, or a 3/8 by 1/4 inch might have worked if you did good back butter, but a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch is the correct amount of thin set. You see a V-notch like this, and you know this person had no clue with what they were doing.
Fabric, what do I want to call waterproofing fabric up there. It also looks like whatever was used to waterproof this area here only goes up.
So this is a trip too, because this black stuff that you see down here, that's actually the Kerdi foam pan. So we're going to get into this a little bit later, but it's black from, I'm guessing that's all mildew or mold. It's just stained black, really nasty. That's the Kerdi fabric that's on the top of the Kerdi. And what she's pointing out here is that there was no lapping of band that connected that pan to the wall. It was basically they put Kerdi membrane on the wall, and then they put the foam pan right up to it. And then they put a piece of band, but oddly enough, they didn't do the lap onto the pan. They just put the band on the wall up against the pan. Really silly.
Maybe, I don't know, a quarter inch, half inch. Definitely not 2 inches, because there's the backer board back there and a little bit of the mesh, I guess. And but I didn't see any mesh tape come off the tile. It was actually relatively good coverage on the tile.
No, sorry, Chris, but that's terrible coverage. You barely even see the tile making indentions into that V-notch trowel. Yeah, that's a not good coverage there at all. It should almost look like a solid sheet of thinset. You shouldn't see the ridges on the trowel lines, but obviously if they're using a 3/16 V-notch, they're not going to get good coverage. Zach had a question. So what, it was full rolls of Kerdi over the sheetrock? Yeah, that's what it looks like. Either they used HardieBacker on the wall or sheetrock, and then they did the Kerdi membrane. This is not Kerdi board. So.
It was hard to get off. But,
Oh, Chris is in the house. Hey, Chris, I'm really glad you're here.
Now in here, it looks as if the old tile from the floor is actually underneath the curb, and then it looks like there's some maybe some, I'm not sure if it's dry pack, but I am pulling up some wood fibers that look like.
I also want to point out again, these are some of the older Schluter components. You'll notice that the foam is gray underneath the foam pan. This is, again, they were using the gray foam. This is not one of the single slope linear drain pans. This is a center drain slope pan, so it had the old gray foam, not the white that they use now.
Coming from subfloor. I did pull a piece of subfloor up as well. So there's that corner. As we go around, I haven't done anything back in there. I did take.
So you guys catching that? Do you see this? You see the pan liner in there? More on that in a second.
This tile off here, and I found this fabric up against. Oh, sorry, I got it backwards. It was like this. And it seemed to be cut nice and straight, like it didn't wrap around, and I don't see any corner dams.
Yeah, so what Chris is saying is that band was just basically placed against the wall and the curb. It wasn't folded and lapped to make the connection, and no preformed corners either.
At all. Here's the Kerdi fabric, but these corners were not corner dammed at all. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, no corners.
Let's see. What else? We've got this black gunk under this.
Yeah, so I think this black gunk here, that's just got to be mold.
Black gunk.
Maybe you guys can educate me a little bit. Mildew mold.
This one was this was over here, like that. And again, a nice straight edge. And barely.
Okay, we're gonna jump to the second video here.
Barely made it to the corner there. I hope my last video saved. And then there was this like tile.
Okay, so now we're getting to the good stuff here. So we can see right off the bat they did not lap the Kerdi membrane and the sheets right, which is weird because they had the components. You know, they had the band. They must have got some sort of instruction, and that's one of the things about these shower systems. People get them confused, right? They think that, you know, I don't know. They think they're doing like the pan liner traditional style, but they're using Kerdi and vice versa, and they mix them all up. So this person was obviously confused. They had the components, but even back then, there was plenty of resources to get the education needed to install these Kerdi systems, because they're really just some simple rules to follow. 2-inch overlap at all the seams. You remember that? And that takes care of a lot of these messes that I see. But we're getting into the good stuff here. That the pan liner, I have never seen this before. They placed a pan liner just laid over the Kerdi pan, just like over it. Okay, so Chris, that's good to know. This was 2015. What I say, 5 to 7 years, so more like 8 years. So yeah, this was an 8-year-old shower. Check out what they did with this shower pan liner.
It's like this. So there was no overlap or underlap. There doesn't seem to be any corner dams. And this shower is a real mess. Yeah, I would appreciate any input or any direction from where to go from here. I know I got a demo at least up to that tile line right there. Get these glass panels out and get this door out.
Yeah, so Chris was saying that pan liner wasn't even like to the edges. Obviously, it wasn't lapped up hospital folds like a 40 mil pan liner is supposed to be, up over the curb, dam corners, none of that. It was just cut to the perimeter of the shower and didn't even go all the way to the edges. So this person was definitely confused. And that's the reason why I make these videos. Really, it's not to bag on people or to say how wrong somebody was. It's so that other people can get educated on this stuff. There's enough video out there, even from where we were in 2015 to now. There's so much more content, a lot of good YouTubers, and we got Instagram now, TikTok. There's really no excuse to not know these simple things like this. So I just want to get this out there so that people learn from it.
And then I'm hoping we can just replace the pan, but
yeah, and Chris, I think that, you start to see stuff that's egregious like this. The errors are so bad that you wouldn't really trust the rest of it. As a matter of fact, I don't know if, Chris, yeah, you already got all the tiles on the wall. Again, they use that V-notch trowel, so this is a job that would need to be completely removed and redone. There's really no saving it. You've seen some of my repair videos like I did last month. I did a repair where the only thing that they didn't do right was they didn't use the preformed corners, and so it leaked. Most of the tile was installed really well, good coverage on it, and so I just did a 1 row around, and then the pan and the curb into the repair. But if I ran into a case like this, there would be no way I would see this stuff, and I said the whole thing's got to come out.
who knows? Who knows? All right. That's
Okay, so next video,
so
Chris.
I managed to get up the rest of the.
Yeah, she's got the rest of it. I want to point something out right here, because this is here we have the Kerdi flange. This looks like an ABS Schluter, one of their Kerdi flanges. This happens. So every single Kerdi shower that I have removed, I've removed some of my own. Well, I've removed one of my own. I've removed 2 or 3 other, no, at least 3 other Kerdi showers for renovations, repairs, whatever, whether they leaked or not. But every single one of them, this flange right here had the fleece completely gone. And I know a lot of you have said, well, that's from pulling the tile off. It's going to pull the fleece off the Kerdi flange. That's not what I have found. Even in my own testing, I put one of these flanges underwater in a bucket for a year. And when I pulled the fleece, when I pulled the Kerdi membrane off, it just delaminated. You can see here the Kerdi flange is completely black, doesn't have any more of that white fleece that's usually on the Kerdi flanges. That's one of the reasons why I really like using the Flow Effects. But that's just a side note, wanted to point that out.
And how weird, there's like one piece of green board back there, but it's on the wrong side. Taking out a little bit extra of the drywall at this level just because it's been damaged. And I've already...
Okay, and it looks like, Chris, I don't know if you've already started doing the repair on this, but I did notice that there's probably going to need, I would probably do a little bit of inspection on the joists and the support, the framing members underneath the subfloor, because it looks like during this renovation here, if you guys look closely, see the floor joist looks like it's been sistered with just a 2x4, and it looks like a huge notch has been taken out of the original floor joist, which looks like maybe a 2x12 or a 2x10, and it looks like it's basically just been chopped in half, or maybe just a really deep notch in it, and then a little sister stud, a 2x4, which isn't sufficient to carry the load of the floor. So, Chris, I don't know if you were able to take a look at that or have somebody come take a look, or if you still can. But that's kind of a red flag there that I would investigate a little bit further.
Up one.
Another thing here I noticed too. Okay, good. So no repairs yet, Christine. Yeah, go ahead and you know, you can even communicate with me over email, and I might be able to help you out. But yeah, those floor joists is kind of a red flag there. I'm also noticing, if you guys take a look at the water supplies, this water supply line going up, it looks like there's 2 gate valves placed in the water supplies for some reason. And I don't know how big of an issue that could be. I just know that that's not how you're supposed to do it. It's not to code. You don't put operating valves inside of a wall. So I don't know. Take it for what it's worth, but it seems really odd to have these gate valves on the hot and cold water supply there. Just kind of odd. And I've seen worse than that. I've seen people who have taken, they'll do like an angle stop valve that you would use for a faucet under a sink or behind a toilet, and they'll put them in the wall, and then they'll use flexible hoses going up to the shower mixer and stuff like that. But yeah, just usually a sign of somebody who doesn't know what they're doing.
Subfloor boards, plywood board, and I've now hit the second one, and it is also significantly water damaged. I think with the studs I'll be able to just put in some blocking and be able to put some blocking up there for the new wallboard. But it looks like this subfloor is going to have to come out as well. Here's kind of what's left of the first subfloor. That this is what the bed was sitting on.
Yeah.
And it was a Kerdi.
That's pretty typical OSB. Any kind of wood over time. You know, this thing was probably leaking from day one. As soon as the water got through the grout, the sucker was leaking. So yeah, you've had a good 7 years of water just sitting in there, and that's probably what that black goop is just organic material that's gotten down there and just sat, and it's food for that mold and mildew.
And yeah, that's what's left of that. So
yeah, it basically turns into dirt.
That's where all that is right now. I'm going to finish cleaning this up and see how crumbly this lower subfloor is. That hole that's cut out there was already cut out.
Oh, so Chris was saying this hole was actually already cut out in the subfloor, which, yeah, and then they put a foam pan on it. That's not good either. The foam is not built to span a support or span a opening like that. So lots of stuff wrong here. I'm going to pull up a few pictures just so we can talk about these a little bit closer. So here's a good picture of the pan liner that was sitting on top of everything directly underneath the tile. You can see they got the Kerdi ring in there for the Kerdi drain, and they just kind of thin setted it in there. And I've never seen that before, I'll have to say. I've seen a lot of people that have used. I get pictures and emails about people that'll do a pan liner, and then they do Kerdi on top of the mortar bed on top of the pan liner, which, again, they're just mixing up the systems. They're not really knowing what they're doing, but they stuck thin set and tile directly to the pan liner, it looks like. So first time for everything. Haven't seen that before. Here's a close-up of the black goop. You can pretty much see how that Kerdi fabric is pretty much just gotten eaten away by whatever organic matter is in there growing and causing that black mush. Yeah, James pointed out that the troweling not in one direction. I think that's the least of the problems in this. That's not going to cause a failure like this. I get that a lot. Directional troweling actually isn't as important as everybody likes to talk about. Let's see. The other one. And here's a picture. So there's the foam pan. So after everything came up, the foam pan is what was down on the subfloor. And I don't even know if that's thin setted down. It almost looks like it was just laid down, placed down on top of the plywood. So this was just a doomed install from the beginning. Let me switch my camera here. All right, so yeah, Chris, I'm glad you just decided to tear it out, because that's what needed to happen. And unfortunately, some people just get going without any information. And my whole thing is that I don't want to discourage people from trying to do this stuff. I really don't. I think that if anything, with my videos, I really want to kind of normalize being able to make mistakes. It's not the end of the world if you do make a mistake, but I want people to be educated, and especially if you're doing it for somebody else, right? It's one thing to do this if this is your own house, it's your own project, and you don't really know what you're doing. But if you're going in and doing this as for somebody else, yeah, we need to put an end to this stuff. I see a lot of this type of work in like flip house renovations is the most common. Is you get a real estate investor that comes in and buys the house, and then they flip it, and they don't really care. They don't really care about this stuff, right? This is 8 years down the road. What do they care? They already got their money. So they really don't care if the job is done right. It just needs to look decent from the outside. Not even that good. It just needs to look decent. So I hope that there's a way to maybe, I don't know if a law is needed, maybe some sort of law where if you buy a piece of real estate, you cannot sell that piece of real estate without documenting the work, or being responsible, somehow being responsible for the work. I don't know. There's got to be somebody that knows how to write a law that would help with a lot of this stuff, because it's just happening all over, and it's not right. The real estate agents, they're the ones who pocket the money, and then the homeowners down the road, they're stuck with it. And it also prices people out of a market too, right? Because if you're young, young family or whatever, you can't afford to buy a fixed up house, you could at least buy a house that needs to be fixed, and then you could fix it yourself over time, or do it yourself, or find somebody to do it for you. But if the real estate investment companies come in and buy them up, then they fix them, then the housing price goes way up because it's flipped. Then it prices that lower end of the market out. And so I think there really could be some regulation, but there's probably a lot of red tape, because I'm sure like probably real estate associations or groups or realtors probably have a lot of pull and lobbying with government, so it'd probably be pretty hard to pass a law like that. But maybe just awareness, you get enough people on board, and things will start to change. So yeah, some way to hold the person who sells the real estate, somehow to hold them liable for maybe a period of like 5 years or something. I think that would put an end to a lot of the stuff you're seeing right here. So if you guys have any questions, I'll take a few minutes here to answer questions. Well, cool. Everybody's pretty quiet. This is nice. We had a nice little session, about 100 people in here at the whole time. Sometimes I like to just do kind of like incognito live streams where I just jump on here and see who has their notifications on. So this is cool, man. I've been pretty busy. I'm uploading a new video. Will be uploaded tonight, 6 p.m. in an hour. It's a video that Zach and I shot doing a mortar bed pan. You've seen me do tons of mortar bed pans, but this one was a little different because what we did is I basically just set up the camera and let it run. And it's like a 26-minute video of like the actual footage. I don't do a whole, and in the start I do a little bit of talking, but for most of the video, I'm just working. I'm not talking, and I don't time lapse anything, and I don't edit anything out. So you see all my movements the whole time. So check it out if you're interested in how to float a shower pan like we do. It's a cool little video, something different. But I haven't been uploading too much. I've been just busy taking care of some personal things and enjoying life, my kids and golf. But I'm ready to get back into it. I take a little break and I'm ready to jump back into this stuff. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to do the live stream. I just haven't been on YouTube too much, and I'm excited to do it. Blake says he has a question. Oh, Christine asked if RSS would be a possible way to grow. Heck yeah, it'd be a great option. Yes, we'll talk about it. Send me an email. RJ says, what's the most durable tile material? Probably porcelain tile. Janine, awesome live video. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Vassal Sendik, the floor in the shower should be installed first and then on the walls, correct? Most of the time. Yeah, for most of the time, that's right. You can do it the other way around too. But it makes the most sense. You tile the shower floor, especially if you're working on foam. Tile the shower pan so it's durable. Then you can cover it and protect it, and then tile the walls. Stack the tiles off of the wall. Christine, thank you so much for using my video for a teachable moment. You are very welcome, and thank you for sending the content so that we can do this. Again, my hope is I would love to do this more. Just kind of break down what's happened so that people can learn from it. Faisal says, I see many people on Instagram do the opposite. So on Instagram, you're seeing a lot of people that do the walls first and then do the pan. Yeah, I mean, and a lot of the track homes around here too, most of the tile installers tile the walls, then butt their floor up to the walls. Who likes the weedy system? Not too big here on the West Coast. They do more hydroblock than anything. Do you think liquid hydroband? Oh, Blake, yeah, that's a great question. Do you think liquid hydroband is enough for a wall and floor waterproofing alone? Or should I do a sheet membrane on the floor and liquid on the walls? I only need 15 square feet of membrane, but I have to buy 108 square feet. Hey, Blake, send me a submission on tilecoach.com. Tell me you need some membrane. I'll send you out some RSS. We'll just get you what you need. But yeah, that's a good method. I love to have sheet membrane on the pans. I like sheet membrane on the pans. For one, we're in time-sensitive applications, right? We don't have time to do a mortar bed, wait 5 days, put a coat of Hydroban, wait another day, put another coat of Hydroban. That's in 7 days for us. We go in, we float the pan, we put the membrane down, and the next day we're tiling it. Or we could even tile it the same day if we really wanted to, if we weren't flood testing it. But so I like, and also membrane, it's the correct thickness. The thing with liquid membrane is you can't get it too thin or too thick. It's hard to judge to get that right, perfect credit card thickness that they want. So it's just easier, less thinking. It's not as messy, but the walls, I've noticed doing liquid on the walls is really good. It cuts out a lot of time and buildup in certain areas, and the walls are not as critical, right? Because if you have a little pinhole or a little crack in the membrane on the wall, you're not going to have an issue. If you have that on the pan, you're going to have an issue. So yeah, liquid's fine on the walls, sheet membrane on the pan. You can use Hydroban just over the dry pack. You can, but the only time I do that is on a slab foundation, where I'm not, where waterproofing isn't as critical. I know it's all critical, and you don't want any leaks or anything. But if you're on a slab and you had a pinhole leak in your Hydroban, you would never have an issue. But if it was on wood, the wood sucks it in and goes and rots, just like what happened to Christine's house. That's when I like the sheet membrane, and sometimes both. You see me, I'll do sheet membrane and then go over it with Hydroban just to make sure everything is 100% sealed. Yeah, common ground. Hey, so if the Dietrich Heat shower floor and you find after you've already curdy over one little spot is spongy, what do you do? Yeah, the pucks in the Dietrich Heat, Dietrich Heat has the little pucks, and then you run your cables through. Those pucks have some give to them. So that's why they want you to use a tile that's 2x2 or bigger. So if you have a tile that's 2 inches by 2 inches, it distributes that point load enough to where you won't have an issue. So yeah, you'll be fine as long as you're using a big enough tile. Just don't use anything smaller than a 2x2 on it. Yeah, Dennis asked, how do you feel about putting some Curdy-Ban over, or putting some Hydroban over a Curdy-Pan install as backup? Yeah, great idea, especially if you're not too familiar, if you haven't done it too many times. Why not? Add some insurance on it. And it's definitely not going to hurt it. It can only help. So Felipe's talking about his floats. Hey Felipe, can you tell me, do you do one coat floats or do you do scratch and brown coats? Are you in Northern California or Southern California? Yeah, full epoxy grout. We've done it a few times. I don't really like the look of the epoxy grout. I don't know. To me, it looks like plastic. And then also, I think you're probably more susceptible to cracks in the tile as opposed to just cracking in the grout. I think epoxy grout's just so rigid that there's just no give to it. I've also heard certain things of some of the talk in the NTCA about in wet areas, epoxy grout doesn't allow water to evaporate out from under the shower pan. So if you have epoxy grout, it's basically like putting a lid, and again, you're going to run into stuff where there's just standing water under it and it can't evaporate. So I don't know. I just think epoxy grout is overkill, but it's good in commercial applications where they're using chemicals and stuff that'll break down cements. But you know, a good high performance cementitious grout with a sealer on it, I think is the way to go. Looks beautiful, finishes up really nice. Oh, Patrick, hey, thanks for the $5, dude. I really appreciate the love, man. More than anything, that just shows your support for my channel, and I really appreciate it. I do. Jason Morgan, hey man, how are you doing? I think it's Oklahoma. How's Oklahoma going? Are you set up down there yet? If Trevor asked if shower grout is failing after a year, would you have to replace the whole shower pan? It sounds like that grout is probably pretty soft if it's coming out. It probably was either a bad batch of grout or was mixed with hot water or too much water or something. So if it's coming out that easy, just scrape the grout out and put new grout in. Curbless shower, is it okay to use hex tile? Of course. Yeah, any size tile, doesn't matter if it's curbless or not. Ryan, do you have any Lowe's favorites for dry pack deck mud? Here in Northern California, we can get the Sackcrete deck mud, and it's a decent mix. A little rich. It's 4-to-1 instead of 5-to-1 like I like to use, but it's got good sand in it. So I don't know if you can get Sackcrete deck mud where you're at. We use it a lot here in California, so probably might not be available everywhere else where they don't use it. Most on the East Coast, they call it sand mix or sand topping mix. Felipe Cruz, one coat down in Fresno. You know, that's funny. If you guys don't know about California Tile Guys and how we float, so Northern California from like Fresno and Monterey, Salinas north, we do a one coat float where we have wallboard up, then we staple our wire into it, and then we do float, one coat of float, about a 1/2 inch thick, get it all plumbed up and nice, ready for tile. Southern California from probably like, I would say San Luis Obispo and down to San Diego, they do a 2-coat just like the old stucco would go on. They just put their paper right onto the studs and they put their wire over the paper. Then they do a scratch coat because, you know, there's wire that's not firm, so they can't really do a finished float. So they do a scratch coat and then they come back and do a brown coat, which is the finish coat. So their float usually ends up like around 3/4 of an inch, where ours is about a 1/2 inch. But they don't have any wallboard behind it. Anyways, that's why I asked the question. But yeah, with Felipe, with one coat floats, they are susceptible to cracking. Most of the time it's from, I've found inconsistencies in either the drying temperature or the thickness. If you get the thicknesses off, basically if that mud starts to dry at different rates, that's where you end up with the cracks. So you don't want to get your floats too thick. When they're thick, they're going to crack. And then also, if they dry too fast, they can crack too. So I hope that helps. But really, those little hairline cracks don't affect the overall structure of it. But yeah, anyways. One coat floats, only California tile setters would know what that's about. Tim, don't you recommend epoxy grout on pebbles? So, you know, I've used Spectralock. Well, no, have a I've only used epoxy grout on Pebble one time, and it worked fine. I haven't had an issue with it. It was a job that we used Fusion, Customs Fusion premixed, and then that failed, and so we had to scrape all of that out. And they still wanted a fully stain-proof grout, so we went in with Customs CEG Light epoxy, and it went pretty good. But it was like a 3-day job to scrape out all the prism. But most of the prism was just like mushy. It just turned like this black mush. Prism, or did I say prism? Fusion. Fusion is the stuff they used to sell in Home Depot. I don't even think they sell it anymore. Blake, is there a correct way to use 2x4s for a shower curb and waterproof properly, or should I get a Kerdi curb or Laticrete curb? Thanks, you're awesome. Yeah, you could use wood curbs. We try to stay away from wood curbs. What happens, in my experience with wood curbs, is there's actually moisture that gets in from the outside of the curb, from when people are stepping out of the shower or whatever. The where the curb, outside of the curb meets the bathroom floor, that gets a lot of water because people are always stepping out, and if that grout line gets cracked, water gets down in there. If any moisture gets into those 2x4s, they swell up, and then your grout starts to crack, and you have issues like that. So I like to use anything that's not wood. Most of our stuff we make with 2-inch foam board. I just rip down 2 pieces of foam board, usually they're 2 inches thick, 3 inches wide, and I'll double those up so that I got a 4-inch by 3-inch wide curb, and that's usually perfect. You can order an RSS curb, that's solid foam. I don't really like the Kerdi curbs because they're hollow. They're just made out of 3/4 inch board. Or you can use masonry. You can use brick. Brick is a good option for building a curb. But yeah, wood, especially on a slab, I really don't like putting wood 2x4s curbs on a concrete slab. Wood foundations are a little bit different because if there's air moving and breathing it, but still, you can do it, but if there's better materials out there to use. Yeah, Ryan, I need to get a bag of that sand topping mix. I know so many of you guys have to use it. I would opt to use maybe Laticrete. You should be able to get, if you got a Floor & Decor nearby, you should be able to get a Laticrete 209 floor mud or Mapei 4-to-1. I think Lowe's might have. But yeah, I don't know how much water they recommend and everything. But yeah, watch the video. If you're going to do it, hey, check out the video that uploads at 6 o'clock. I hope you have your notifications on. But yeah, check it out because it shows even Zach did a close-up scene of what the mud looks like, and you can see it's just fluffy. It's almost like you're working with just sand. It's just so nice, and it's a cool video. I don't know if it'll do if people will really be into it just watching me work without talking or anything, but I think it'll help you if you're going to be floating a shower pan. Oh, common ground. So you're using herringbone on the Dietrich 1x4. Should be fine. Use epoxy grout and it'll be fine. Maybe that's the solution. Because yeah, once you use epoxy grout into any tile, whether it's a tiny penny round or what, it's basically making it one solid tile, one solid point. There's no point load distribution. It's all gonna be like one solid piece, not individual little tiles. So yeah, maybe if that makes you feel better, common ground. Oh, you're saying a tile is flexing. Man, I still think epoxy grout would solve that problem because tiles are gonna be connected. That's a tough call for me right now without seeing how much flex is in that. But man, it sounds like you're already pretty deep in it. If you already have your Dietrich heat down, everything waterproofed, man, yeah, I would really hate to tear that apart. I would just use epoxy grout. Patrick says, hey Isaac, I will be renovating a shower soon and was going to get an acrylic pan and cement board sides with Mapei Aqua Defense and tile on top. Any tips? Solid installation, brother. That sounds great. Yeah, maybe just the connection between the cement board and the acrylic pan. So I like to, you're going to have the lip of your acrylic going up, the flange on the acrylic pan. Bring your Durock or cement board right to the top of that lip, and then use a piece of Kerdi band to bridge that gap, and use Kerdi Fix sealant to attach the Kerdi to the acrylic, and use thin set mortar to attach the Kerdi to the cement board. Does that make sense? So you basically have that band going all the way around, and that's going to completely waterproof that seal, and then do Aqua Defense over that. I think that's probably the best installation you can do there, because that's really the probably the most vulnerable point in your shower is that connection between the acrylic and the cement board. Yeah, see, we got a comment from someone in Arizona who's only seen 4x12 cement blocks used. Yeah, so again, California is big on wood curbs. That's the way they've done it. But in different regions, they probably found out that wood cracks the tile and grout. So they said, hey, everybody use cement blocks. So the thing is these installation methods are regional, and they're passed down from tile setter to apprentice and father to son, whatever. And these methods in the regions just get carried down. So everybody in that region will have similar style installation methods. And I think that's really cool. I love having variety in the trades, and everybody does things a little bit different. And California, we're really unique over here. Common Ground says, what about the CQ Flex grout? Yeah, if it has flex in the name, I don't know. Yeah, it's probably not. It probably doesn't have the hardness that epoxy will. Go with Laticrete Spectralock Pro. Yeah, Jeff just said, ever have a problem with Laticrete grout going soft when it gets wet? My Laticrete rep said had me apply a hardener and then a sealer. Any reason why he did that? Yeah, it's that's been an issue, and they're working on it. Actually, Laticrete just came out with a new grout that their new Permacolor and Permacolor Select is 20% stronger. If you saw I did a video a couple years back, and I had all the guys on my crew, and we did like 6 different sample boards of all the common grouts. We did Customs Prism, we did Laticrete, we did Laticrete, I just said it, Permacolor, we did Laticrete Permacolor Select, we did Ardex, is it FA, is that their grout? We did Mapei Ultraflex, we did what else did we do? Kiesel. We did all these grouts, and so we did these boards, let them cure for 28 days, then we did all this testing with like abrasion testings and rubbing it, because we've had these problems. You're not alone with that with your Laticrete grout being soft, Jeff. I hope you can check out that video. I don't know what it's called. I forgot what it's called, but something about grout. You might be able to search it on my channel. And yeah, that was the results we found. Almost all of these grouts performed the same. I think the Mapei Ultracolor, not Ultraflex, that's their thin set. Mapei Ultracolor FA, right? Am I correct? Is that their Prism comparable? But yeah, anyways, that one probably did the best, but they were all very similar in that you could just get them wet. This is after a 28-day cure. Get it wet, and you could just rub it and that grout just comes out on all of them. So the cool thing is I made that video a couple years ago, and then gets back to the manufacturers. So I'm kind of doing like free guinea pig testing for them, which is, you know, that's awesome. If we're making a difference, I love it. And so they just came out with a grout that's 20% stronger. My rep brought over a bag for me to try. It's been sitting in my shop for a couple months. I haven't got around to it, but yeah, I want to do a comparison. I want to take the new improved 20% stronger Permacolor grout and the old one, because I got bags of the old one, and see how they're different. You know, rub them, see if they come out when they're wet. But yeah, apparently they do have a hardener. Oh, Power Grout was the other one we tested, Tech Power Grout, and that was the worst one because that was the one we used exclusively for a while on our installs. We stocked it in our shop. It was Power Grout on everything, and Power Grout had probably the most issues with the softness. So they came out with their own hardener, which is basically just acrylic. It's just an acrylic, and you just put that on the top of the grout, and it gives it like a little bit of a more durable coating, but it's still soft. I don't know what to say. Oh, Common Ground asks, what's the name of the grout again? Laticrete Spectralock Pro. There's Spectralock 1, which is their premix grout that's like epoxy, and then there's Spectralock Pro, which is their actual epoxy grout that you have to mix 3 parts. So Spectralock Pro. All right, guys, I've been on here for almost an hour. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks again, Chris. I really appreciate you sending that to make this video possible. I hope you guys all learned something. And thanks again for the $5 super chat. Really appreciate it. Glad to be here. I'm pumped to be back on YouTube, and I love you. I love being your tile coach, and we'll see you on the next video.